So that was a piece of high ROI that we really didn't put enough value in until after we saw it after we moved to Salesforce. We were like, oh, wow, our processes can scale way more because we're actually as a team now rather than just as an individual. That was something that had an incredible ROI for us, just in a path of how we did our business. Hey everyone, welcome into another episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. I'm your host as always, Brad Owens, and I was just like you. I was a recruiter for well over a decade, spending my money on pieces of technology that never really fit what I hoped that they would do for us as a firm. And then I found Salesforce, and I went, where has this been all my life? It was an absolute game changer for us. And since then, I've been dedicating myself to helping folks like you understand more about the platform. What can Salesforce really do for staffing and recruiting? And hopefully not make some of the mistakes that I did. And one of those mistakes is one I want to talk about today. I didn't pull the trigger soon enough because I thought Salesforce was way too expensive. It took me a while to understand that the cost associated with this platform is something that I am already losing plenty of. And I want to explain that a little bit more. So I only really looked at Salesforce as here's the bottom line cost. Here's what I'm going to end up paying every month. What I didn't really factor in was what it was going to do to productivity in my business to actually make us more money than we were spending on it. That should be the goal of every piece of technology, right? Is it making more money than it's costing you? Hopefully you're clearing that on your current ATS, but what if that were like 5-fold, 10-fold more than what you think is possible? I think that's the case for Salesforce. At least that's what I found, and I want to take you through how. So the first thing that I really didn't take into account when I first got into Salesforce was how many of my processes were truly just super manual. How much of it was copy this thing, paste it here, take this phone number, make sure I type it into my cell phone at the right time and make the phone call. All of this stuff that was highly manual was wasting time. Absolutely wasting time, because the things that you can automate inside Salesforce are really limitless. If you can come up with an if this then that statement, you can likely automate it inside Salesforce. I've seen it. There's other episodes on this channel where I show you how to actually do that. So the lost productivity there from those outdated, highly manual processes are things that you're currently not making money from. They're costing you money every single time you have to do those things. Think about it in the terms of how many hours you're spending on these manual processes. Break out how much you're paying these people, break it down by hour, and you'll see how much it's truly costing you to run these manual processes. If you automated all that, you're instantly saving all of that money. It's something that I didn't run the math on earlier, and I wish I would have, because that would have made my switch to Salesforce far easier, and I would have done it far sooner. The second thing that I never really valued when I was looking for a piece of software, and therefore didn't really put value in my switch to Salesforce, was around the amount of talent that's dropping out of my funnel at the very top, because that slow response time. So I had this ATS that people would apply into my ATS. I, just like everyone else, would have to go through and review them manually and make sure that each one of these people is actually worth my time, or have we done anything with this person before? Do they have these really types of skills that I'm looking for? And as much automation as we can think is built into our ATS, we really still have to go through things manually. That is time that these folks that are the talent that have applied to my jobs are also applying to other jobs. I never really truly felt that I was so above everyone else in my sphere that they would only apply to me, right? I'm not that privileged. My candidates are likely applying to a ton of different places. And that means every single manual process that I have that slows me down from getting in touch with those people is going to get in the way of me actually making that placement. That person's going to be gone if I don't get in touch with them within the first couple hours. That's what candidates are kind of demanding now. So without a system that had that automation that would really funnel through and take those candidates and start interacting with them at the very, very first moment they apply, you can set those kinds of things up in Salesforce. Look for a Marketing Cloud episode that I did recently where it goes through talking about these journeys that you can set for people. That's the type of stuff that these candidates are going to demand. And without that, you're losing talent. So if your ATS can make you make more placements, you will make more money than it's costing you to buy that ATS, right? So that's another thing that I really didn't put enough value in, is the rate at which I was likely losing talent because I wasn't responding fast enough. And then if having a piece of technology like Salesforce could solve that, I wouldn't have that lost revenue. Third thing that I never really valued enough when I was selecting an ATS, and one that just completely changed when I got Salesforce, was the amount of effort and the amount of credence I put behind all of the reporting in my system. So before I had this ATS that, yes, you could look at, here's how many applicants you have, here's how many are in your system, but it couldn't really get a sense of what activity we were doing was actually leading to placements and leading to folks getting new jobs. I could never really make that connection. So we were really not using data to inform our entire recruiting process. We were just reporting on, well, here's where it is. We couldn't really make any improvements based on that. We could look at the high levels of how many applicants did we have and how many jobs do we have open, right? So we can get a rough idea of, hey, do we have enough to cover what we've got? But what if we could start narrowing down and get even better types of reporting? What if we could start with, hey, here's how many minutes per day this recruiter's on the phone, and here's how many placements they make. Then we can start understanding, okay, what does efficiency actually look like in our business? Where does everyone need to fall from that perspective? And I can start making leadership types of predictions on, okay, here's how much time they spend on the phones. Here's how many placements we made out of that. Okay, we can probably start tweaking some of this stuff. Hey, here's this repetitive process that we've been doing. How many types of responses is that getting? Maybe we should tweak that response because this kind of outreach has been doing better. The types of informed decisions that we can make because of truly good data saved ourselves from making mistakes time and time again, and not being able to correct things because we truly just didn't know what we were doing, right? We didn't have data on what those outcomes were. So the data and the reporting that was inside Salesforce changed how we were able to report and therefore how we were able to do business. So we were able to recoup a ton of costs just by purely the improvements to our business that were made by using that reporting. So I didn't, at least personally, put enough value behind what reporting is actually going to do for our business. So I hope you don't make that mistake. The fourth is another one of those candidate experience things that I just truly didn't value enough to understand why Salesforce was the right choice to make for me. When we think about candidate experience, we talked earlier in this episode about that candidate drop-off rate from, maybe they haven't heard from you from their application, but it goes deeper than that when we talk about candidate experience. When we think about the uniform experience that this person gets from the moment that they apply, even that actual application process itself, all the way through after they get placed and the kinds of relationships they have with our firm after that. I used to value way too much the personal interactions that my recruiters had with the candidates. When I say personal interactions, I mean, if a individual were to call up my firm, they'd ask for Jamie just because Jamie was the one they had a relationship with. That doesn't scale so well if Jamie leaves my firm. I want a fantastic relationship with my firm. And I wasn't able to do that with the ATS that we had because it was very much a siloed workspace for these recruiters. They had their talent. They were able to work with their talent. And the whole team couldn't really work with their talent. So it made holidays were difficult. When people took time away or had a sick day or were just out for the office, it made it really difficult to keep that productivity up. Because that candidate experience, we couldn't scale across the entire business. It was very individual focused. So with Salesforce's tools, we were able to make the relationship not one from talent to recruiter, but talent to firm. And once we had a relationship with the firm and we had that brand that was consistent throughout the entire process, then it made it much easier to scale as a team because we could all pick up slack here and there. We didn't have to rely on individuals doing just this one piece of work with one talent or one individual. We could have the entire team working as a team with all of the available talent in our system. That gave us a much more unified talent experience. That gave us a much, much higher productivity rate because we as a team could take things rather than just one individual. And when we think about candidate experience and candidate drop-off, we started seeing actually higher candidate engagement because they were getting more consistent, more reliable feedback and interactions from the entire team rather than just waiting on one individual who from day to day may be more overwhelmed or less overwhelmed and not able to get back to the people they need. So that was a piece of high ROI that we really didn't put enough value in until after we saw it, after we moved to Salesforce, we were like, oh, wow, our processes can scale way more because we're actually as a team now rather than just as an individual. That was something that had an incredible ROI for us, just in a path of how we did our business. So that's something I wish I would have valued more. The fifth and final pain point today that I really didn't put enough value in, that I think led to high ROI from changing to Salesforce, is around new systems and new integrations and new technology and new things we wanted to take advantage of. One thing that I didn't really put enough value in when I had an old ATS was, hey, this ATS is designed to integrate with these couple things. That's all you're going to get integrated until the company actually makes a new update. So we had to wait maybe a year, maybe 2 years for the newest feature to come out that would integrate with this newest hot tech, whatever it might be. That's not a problem at Salesforce. Everything really integrates with Salesforce, and if it doesn't, you've got MuleSoft, which is a Salesforce product that allows you to integrate with it. It's incredibly easy to get new pieces of tech integrated into your process inside Salesforce and for you to start actually taking advantage of that. So let's say AI is all the rage right now, right? If there's some crazy candidate matching tool that comes out tomorrow that is platform agnostic and it says, hey, we want you to be able to use our matching engine. We're going to work with anyone. If we were working with another vendor out there that may have a little bit slower development process and a little bit more history of not actually giving those releases like weekly or even monthly or even huge releases 3 times a year, Salesforce does that. They do large releases 3 times a year, all of which that you get to take advantage of if you're recruiting inside Salesforce. So this crazy new AI tech, you're at most a couple months away from having it, because it would be able to integrate into Salesforce. But more than likely, that new tech would have an API that would integrate into Salesforce, and you can use it as soon as you get an implementation done. And this isn't part of this, but everyone and their cousin knows how to use Salesforce, or if they don't, they know someone who does. And if you can't figure it out, it's likely a Google search away. I mean, Salesforce is so prevalent. Anyone can work on this thing. So here was my situation. I wanted to use this new resume parser, and that parser was way better than the one we had in our system. It was finding things and helping us make matches that we really just couldn't make with our current software, and I wanted to be able to use it, and I couldn't. Turns out that they had an API, which is just the ability to talk to other programs, and Salesforce has an API, so they can both talk together, and now by moving to Salesforce, I was able to use all this amazing tech that I wanted to use. That, to me, had an incredibly high value that I didn't equate to the ROI that I would see when I was buying Salesforce. So sometimes when we're looking at buying a piece of software, we really only put it at, hey, here's how much it's going to cost us per month. But there are tons and tons of different things that you should be looking at that'll truly help you understand the ROI on buying this new piece of software. So Salesforce's ROI goes way deeper than just a line on your balance sheet. It's things that I wish I would have looked at far sooner. And I hope these 5 different things are something that you could start taking advantage of or start looking at and wondering, hey, I wonder what the ROI would be if we started to improve that in our process, because it made a tremendous impact on what I was able to do as a recruiter. So if you like that kind of content, there is plenty more. If you go to salesforceforrecruiters.com, there will be this and many, many other episodes that I hope you understand my journey through Salesforce and hopefully save you some time and some pain when you go about selecting something new to run your recruiting process on. So if you like that, it's salesforceforrecruiters.com. The best ATS that I know of available inside of Salesforce is the Assemble ATS. It's asymbl.com. It allows you to take advantage of every single thing that I've been talking about Salesforce and also do recruiting inside Salesforce. It's a fully featured ATS inside of Salesforce. So I highly suggest you take a look at that. It's asymbl.com, the Assemble Applicant Tracking System. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. If you have any questions about Salesforce that you'd like answered on the show, please send them in to hello@bradowens.com. I'm happy to answer those questions on air. I do viewer questions constantly. So hello@bradowens.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.